Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Slappin Kpop podcast. I'm Sammy, and with me today is Kayla.
Hello.
And we're here for the second of our company reviews.
Hooray.
Yay.
Significantly worse company this time.
Significantly worse. Last month we did FNC. This month we are doing Cube Entertainment. And if this is your first time here, every month Kayla and I have decided that we are going to go through one singular K-pop company and essentially give them their performance review.
Yes.
Go through all the major groups that they have put out, talk about how they have handled the overall career of the group, how they have handled any individual major scandals those groups have had, and just essentially give them a... not a grade. We don't grade them, but just overall seeing if they are a decent K-pop company.
Well, I think we gave them a ranking out of 10 when we did FNC.
I think so we did give them a ranking out of 10.
We'll give them that.
We'll give them a ranking out of 10, and we will say if we would allow us or our children to debut.
Yes.
The answer is no.
The answer
I would
is
never
no.
debut in any K-pop
Yeah,
company.
the answer
Spoiler
is generally no for all companies, but...
But we'll see. Definitely not for this one.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Cube Entertainment.
Cube Entertainment.
And also, if you don't know, we don't go through specifics about the company or internal management. We are specifically only talking about how they handle their artists and the management decisions of the artists.
Yes.
Not so much the internal background struggles, because that's less interesting to us.
Way less interesting.
So shall we begin at the beginning?
In the beginning.
It's a very good place to start.
So, Cube Entertainment debuted two different groups in 2009. They did a girl group and a boy group. The first one was 4 Minute, and they debuted in June. And that was a 5-member group consisting of Jiyoon, Gayoon, Jihyun, Hyuna, and Sohyun. Hyuna, was most already pretty famous because she was in Wonder Girls before she
for like a
debuted
hot
to 4
second.
Minute. Yep. So there she is. Most of the stuff we have about 4 Minute deals with Hyuna because apparently that was the only person Cube Entertainment cared about in their entire career.
Look, there was always, and 4 Minute has been disbanded for like 5 years at this point, so we can say this very easily. There used to be a very derogatory nickname for 4 Minute, which was Hyuna and the girls, or Hyuna and her backup dancers, or however people wanted to say it. Mm-hmm. And most people were like, "Well, no, 4 Minute's good. That's just a mean thing to say." But it's been years. You can say it's true.
It was definitely true. It's definitely true. That is what was happening in that group.
Should that have happened? No. Are the other members untalented? No. Arguably, I think that the fact that Cube allowed that to happen in the first place is their own fault. Was a Cube problem.
Because they debuted in 2009. Hyuna debuted solo in 2010, and debuting solo a year after your group debuts is wild. That's
and not
super
only that,
early.
but she also then proceeded to have a super active solo career. Almost, if you look at the amount of songs Hyuna was putting out,
it's essentially the amount of activity that you would get from just a soloist, and she was doing that with also 4 Minute on the side.
There were years that Hyuna did so in 2010 she debuted solo. In 2011 she debuts in a subunit with Hyunsung as in Troublemaker. Mm-hmm. So she has her, and Troublemaker is a subunit that actually had comebacks. So essentially right after debut, Hyuna is in 4 Minute, debuting solo, and debuting in a subunit. Yep. Essentially, that causes 4 Minute's group activities to entirely have to focus around Hyuna's solo schedule.
Yeah, because they can only come back when Hyuna is not doing other activities, is essentially what is happening.
And that's the only, because weirdly, 4 Minute as a group didn't have, we try to talk about scandals in here. 4 Minute didn't really have that many
scandals, yeah.
No, so we're just talking about what happened. Mm-hmm. And for Hyuna, the next time that 4 Minute would have anything that's not a Hyuna thing is in 2013. They got 2 Yoon, which was Jiyoon and Gayoon, and that had one song.
And they didn't really
and was a subunit.
Much of anything with that. Yeah, they just did it to give them something to do while Hyuna was also doing solo music and other things.
Because the other members, at least outwardly, publicly, didn't do that much.
They really didn't.
Overall.
No.
They just sort of were... Like, it's hard to make a group not Hyuna and the girls when literally
the only person you are ever seeing is Hyuna. Like,
and also, you are forcing the group activities to essentially go in when Hyuna's free from her solo activities.
And they, like, didn't even put any of the other members into, like, acting or variety shows. Like, they were just around not doing anything when Hyuna was busy.
They were just in the dorm watching Hyuna on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Which then doesn't surprise us when, again, they debuted in 2009, 2016, were up for contract renewals, and then they disband immediately.
Yep,
because
and only Hyuna renews her contract with Cube Entertainment because obviously
at that point,
Hyuna is established and a soloist essentially already. So
then Hyuna continues soloist. In 2017, she joins Triple H, which continues to be her... essentially running that company the way she wants. Like, she can do whatever she wants at that point.
Hyuna told them she wanted another subunit with her boyfriend, and then they said, you can't have that, so we need to have someone there for parental supervision. So Hui also came along. And then there's Hui.
Hui was there to make sure everything was done professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2018, they fuck up again because they kick Hyuna out for her dating scandal when she essentially was the biggest name they had in that company at that point. Yeah. By far.
That was a really bad decision on their part.
That was a terrible decision.
Yep.
So, and then they moved to P Nation. So this is also us talking both about 4 Minute and Hyuna as a soloist, because I'm sorry, those two are so interconnected as a concept that you cannot separate.
You can't
Hyuna,
really.
4 Minute from Hyuna. Really. And genuinely, that is the failure of Cube Entertainment here.
It was too much of the focus was on Hyuna. That it destroyed the entire group from the start. Like, that's essentially what happened.
I'm trying to think, because I'm trying to think of a K-pop group right now that is so dependent on one person, the way that 4 Minute was so revolved around Hyuna.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I cannot think of one.
Nothing comes to mind right now.
Nothing is coming to mind.
It's just like a soloist and everybody else, essentially.
And everyone else around them. I can
think of one other group who this relates to, but they're also, like, old, which is Block B.
Exactly.
Zico, but they're also in the same, like, era of group.
And I would say Block B, while as mismanaged as they were,
Block B
gave
members
far more opportunities to the other members than Cube gave to the other
Block
members.
B members definitely do other stuff. It's just not as much stuff as Zico, but they still do have their own, like,
and also, was it as
careers.
Successful as Zico? No. What I will give Cube,
stuff.
Yes, what I will give Cube, and this might be almost in spite of Cube, not because of Cube. But 4 Minute was good.
They were.
For as much as we'll say about it. And they
really
also... Good. We go back to a lot of times in this series of, well, it doesn't matter if they're as long as they're making money and successful. They were also, like, for as much as the strategy was not fair to the other members of 4 Minute, it was successful. 4 Minute was big.
Hyuna also very successful, so.
Hyuna very successful, so... For as bad as, I guess, the overall
how bad it was for everybody else in that group,
as bad it was for everyone involved, it was successful. But I don't know if I don't know if it maybe would have been even more successful if you attempted to invest in your other members.
Yeah.
It could have kept going. It's shit like this, I think, that makes girl groups only last 7 years, because you don't give any of them opportunities to do anything. So overall, I do think... we tend to, like, try to, like, not that we ever try to defend companies in this series, but we also try to be realistic in the way of, like, sometimes, you know, companies can manage something good and sometimes just won't be successful. This is almost the opposite, where a company managed it so poorly and somehow it's still successful.
Yeah, and it's, like, also, it's because girl groups especially suffer the 7-year curse a lot worse than boy groups do. It's, like... How long were they really going to go on after those 7 years anyway?
Because, let's be honest, 2016, they disband. That's almost kind of where you're getting this second wave of, like, hardcore
right?
Not hard, like girl crush girl groups. So
yeah,
like, do then they
because
get buried?
Let's just
Who
say
knows?
they do renew contracts at 2016. Hyunna's gonna get kicked out in 2018 anyway, and then what
Fair.
becomes of them at that point?
At that point,
Yeah.
it just becomes the same thing. So realistically, it is very much mismanagement. I think everyone can say this was very mismanaged. They could have, because even if they wanted to disband as 4 Minute, like they didn't want to renew their contract to be artists of 4 Minute.
Yeah,
they could have wanted to re-sign with. They could have still had these girls.
They could have re-signed as soloists. Yeah,
exactly.
But I think Cube's strategy for 4 Minute relied so heavily on Hyuna doing all of it that they just did not create like careers that the other members like could sustain as a soloist.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So overall, I just think that it's just bad.
It was a bad time.
So we move on to similar but different mismanagement.
Yeah. Oh, this is also like a hot mess. Like, talk about like a company just really fucking over as much as they can their two original groups, because they also
absolutely.
They debuted Beast in the same year as 4 Minute, just they debuted in October, and they were originally 6 members: Hyunsung, Doojun, Dongwon, Yosub, Kikoing, and Junhyung. And like we said before, 2011, Hyunsung is going to be in Troublemaker with Hyuna.
Which is like the most exciting thing that happened. Again, two groups that really did not have that many scandals, that Cube had to until later in their career.
Yeah, Beast's only scandals are gonna come after when they're highlight, and their biggest scandal is them leaving Cube and then Cube fucking them over. So
exactly. So this is really where we also are shown that Cube, when having to handle because the Hyuna Edon situation, very well recorded. We talk about it on the Scandal Iceberg. We talk about everyone's talked that concept to death, where you handle the situation poorly, and then you're kicking out two of your most useful artists. Hyuna's your biggest artist, and Edon was almost at that time central to Pentagon. We would later learn Pentagon can continue without him, but he's still a massive part of that group.
I think it was him and Hui working together, essentially producing their songs, I think was a really good dynamic, and you can definitely tell the difference after Edon leaves that group too. Yeah.
So then with Beast, you're also dealing with no scandals, relatively scandal-free, big group, very successful at the time. You have
one of the biggest boy groups
hit makers here
in second gen boy groups.
Fiction is still one of the biggest second gen songs I remember. Like they had Good Luck is one of my favorite K-pop songs. I love them. They do great.
Yep.
And then in 2016, Hyunsung will leave Beast due to creative differences, but still stay in Cube. And I think the creative differences is that I feel like he really liked their song, Yeah.
And then the rest of the members
were not having it.
Because they come out with Ribbon right after that, so they were very much into the ballads and to not doing the just party anthems and everything, so...
I feel like even though I like that song, I prefer to Ribbon all the time, but we also don't like ballads.
Yeah. And also I think it's pretty evident also in the type of music they will do when they are highlight. I can't see Hyunsung doing any of the music that highlight does.
You can't see Hyunsung doing the post Burning Sun scandal. It's not the end.
I also can't see Hyunsung in Please Don't Be Sad or any of those songs at all.
That's too fun for Hyunsung. Yeah. Hyunsung's
I think the other members really wanted to go ballads and fun, and Hyunsung was not about that at all.
Hyunsung wanted a party.
Yeah, and at that point,
there's nothing wrong with that. This seemed like a pretty amicable split. No one at the end was making passive aggressive comments or anything. No one was making pointed lyrics. It's all fine.
It makes it makes a lot of sense too, because there were very obvious creative differences there, and that's why that ended up that way. It's one of the
few where I genuinely believe, because the excuse is always when someone leaves the group, it was creative differences, when really it seemed like maybe an interpersonal conflict. This seemed like genuine creative differences.
Oh yeah, it really does. It's very obvious.
Yeah. And also the fact of I do think Cube handled the situation as well as I could, which is the fact of no, you can stay here, you can be in Cube, but you aren't
gonna leave the group. Yeah,
you just leave the group. It's still fine.
Uh-huh.
What I do not like what they do is that essentially from that point on, Hyunsung will do nothing.
Nothing. He just sits there until
he will be hit the stage for like 3 weeks. Exactly. That is really where the mismanagement comes in, because I'm sorry, you have, for as much as Troublemaker is Hyuna and, again, my conspiracy theory, her ex-boyfriend, but that's nothing else. Fair, yes, but you have this person who was able to be in a duo just put out some more solo music. Yes, he had his solo debut. He did it once. Do more of that. I don't know. So then in 2016, also in 2016, just at the end of in December, so the 5 remaining members of Beast leave the company together and then start Around Us Entertainment. It's insane. Then we get really where Cube makes. Now this is really where Cube, because up to this point, time-wise, taking out the Hyuna Edan situation, which wouldn't happen for another year, what we're dealing with now is that Cube up to this point hadn't really been like a super petty company. They just sort of like never had to deal with a scandal. This wasn't a scandal. This was them making a scandal. They made their own scandal. Because in 2017, the former members of Beast, go into trademark discussions with Cube over the name Beasts, because they want to continue on being Beast. They want to leave the company, but keep their name. And at this... Exactly. Whenever you move... Exactly. Anytime that people say they want a K-pop group to leave a company and go to a different company, this is the type of shit they're going to have to do, because technically the label owns the title.
Sometimes the company lets you have the name. It depends on how petty they are.
Exactly. And then a lot of times, especially if you were a successful group, they'll want something from you to be able to leave.
Yeah.
Shinhwa had to do it because Shinhwa was fucking successful as hell.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But at this point, Cube decides to do some bullshit and announce that they are going to keep the trademark and are going to debut a new group that will be called Beast, and Hyunsung will be a part of this.
Yes.
Hyunsung responds saying he had no idea this was happening.
Yeah, Hyunsung literally
not informed.
Hyunsung writes an Instagram post and it essentially says, like, I heard about this through the news article. I have never heard of this in my life before. I don't know what they're talking about.
Which makes me feel like this was a thing that they said in the moment.
Yes.
Of just as a way for them to be like, we'll pay more or else.
This sounded like they were having trademark discussions. They came out of a meeting really upset and then threw this out there in spite.
Yes, and then Beast essentially says, fuck it, we don't care enough, and rebrands as Highlight.
Yes.
To the point where, at this point, people, especially younger K-pop fans, this happened in 2017. That's like almost 6 years ago at this point.
I remember so many people seeing Highlight debuting and thinking that was a completely new K-pop group.
Yeah. And like a lot of people, when they hear Highlight, one, either if you know, you know. Mm-hmm. But Highlight at this point has so much music, you don't even have to know.
A lot of people probably don't even know that Highlight used to be Beast. Like, and they honestly, probably just think they're a second-gen boy group that are just, like, still around.
That are just old.
But, like, a lot of people probably don't make the connection that those two groups are one and the same.
And honestly, they're successful enough that it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think the name Beast was going to keep them enough fans.
No. Also, the reason they chose the name Highlight is because that was the name of the last full album they released at Cube Entertainment. So that's why they went with Highlight.
Yep. And then in 2021, which again, didn't even realize he was still there, to be honest with you.
He literally went to the military and came back and was still in Cube.
And still not doing anything. Yeah. Hyunsung's contract expires and he just leaves.
Yep.
No hurrah, no nothing. He just left, having done nothing in years.
I don't know what he's doing
like
now.
One song, like, post coming back from the military, but like
and then he did
nothing else.
He did like a couple episodes of Hit the Stage, and that was all we got out of solo career Hyunsung under Cube Entertainment. So
essentially,
lovely.
Yep, it really was just a whole lot of nothing. Yeah. I think that they completely mismanaged. Again, Cube has this very weird habit of just doing nothing with their artists.
They do. This is a problem that will be consistent throughout Cube Entertainment. So at this
point, you have to think about longevity-wise, a company can also make its money from just having a lot of people there. For example, take SM Entertainment. SM Entertainment still has, for as many groups that are in and out of SM Entertainment that have disbanded, they are still making money off of the 2 members of TVXQ that are still there and like 5 members of Girls' Generation,
still have
6
Trax
members of Super
still.
Junior. Trax is still there.
Boa
all of
is
Shiny's
there.
Boa is there. They have this stable of artists that will make them money forever.
That's why they can make these like massive super groups of like Super M and Girls on Top. So
and like even if their new groups, which not saying they are because their groups will be successful forever, but like let's say they make a group that underperforms, they still have this back catalog of people that are gonna stick around and like yeah sure, Girls' Generation's not making group music anymore. Those 5 girls still need representation for all of their modeling, their solo music, their acting roles. All of that other stuff still needs representation.
Yeah.
Guess who's making the money? SM Entertainment. At this point, Cube has made 2 very successful groups. 2 of the top, like, if you look at a list of second-gen groups, Beast and 4 Minute are, like, top-tier second-gen groups. Yeah. They have not a singular artist in the year 2022 to show for it. When other companies can have artists from like 1997 still there, they don't have a singular person.
Nothing. And it's like it's such like a just like shitty thing to do to your 2 groups that founded your company essentially.
But like even in a bit like that's in a personal, even from a business perspective, you have to know that a bunch of these people could like even just the members of Highlight that or. I call them Highlight now just because I'm so used to it. It's not even Beast anymore. The members of Highlight, that'll just be producing for other people or acting or doing something else.
Right.
That's a bad business move to just sort of like be like, oh, well, the group's not as popular. They can leave.
It just sucks. It sucks so much for both of them.
It really does. It really does. I feel so bad.
Yeah.
So now we're involved in a way worse thing.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot of stuff on this next one because there's just not a lot of information about it, but we're going to talk briefly about GNA. She debuted in 2010, and she was a Korean-Canadian female soloist under Cube. In 2012, she was a part of the first ever K-Con. And then in 2016, she was involved in a prostitution scandal. And then was essentially forced out of the entertainment industry. And there was really not a lot of news coverage of this at all, and it was very much like brushed over, and people forget about her even existing. And how honest, Cube was able to like have this go under the radar so much like blows my mind.
I think it's mainly just because, I mean, look, Gina was never really a super popular artist. Yeah. Most people now know her for that prostitution scandal. She wasn't so like super popular. She's also a soloist at a time, especially in K-pop, where like it's all dominated by so many groups.
Yeah.
That like if she was a member of a popular group, that's it. That's done. Like that's wild. That becomes a big problem. She's a soloist. She was an adult. You can try to just like ignore it, but it is wild that like it was like a big scandal.
It was like but it's like the fact that it's like it happened and people forgot about it so fast was just like is wild to me, and then people now don't even remember that she existed.
Yep, I mean Cube did manage to get away from that mostly scot-free. I think just because they mainly ignored it and then got rid of her and then
just
and it's like never speak of it again.
Don't acknowledge it anymore. Yeah.
So on to another big group. Cube has this very interesting way of just making like very popular groups and then fucking them over. So we get in 2012 they debut B2B, with Eunkwang, Minhyuk, Changsub, Sungjae, Ilhoon, Peniel, and Hyunsik. And in the beginning, I have found that B2B was, what do you think, like, minorly successful? Not majorly successful. But they were just minorly successful. Like, they weren't nobodies. They weren't new
It's like
groups, but they weren't super successful.
Yeah, they are, like, not, like, your top tier boy group, but they're always around and doing, like, consistently well, and, like, well enough that they can, like, maintain a pretty successful career.
But they weren't a beast or a highlight level group. A beast or a 4-minute level group.
Yeah. It's like they're always like a tier below like the top like tier groups that are
They were popular, but they also then made the name for them for being very, very silly. They were very good on variety shows. That's another thing I think that kept them very much in the public eye, is that they very were so fun with variety shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So generally speaking, they were what? B tier?
B tier, yeah, probably.
B2B tier?
B2B tier, yes.
So then it's really until they decided that Cube made a very smart decision with them, is that they realized that this is a group that has phenomenal vocalists.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decided, what if they just did ballads? And then they became massively successful.
And then if we did ballads a lot, and they do ballads, and that's really where we're at with them currently.
I mean, it's very...
We even have a specific ballad subunit, too, if the ballads that full B2B was doing wasn't enough ballad.
Even though it's not like they were... Yeah, it's not like B2B was doing, like, full rock.
No.
Because even, like... Because at that point, they would even transition to do something like I'll Be Your Man.
Right.
I'll Be Your Man is not like a super energetic track. It's still very vocal heavy, very like almost ballad, but like a power ballad. That's really where B2B finds their stride. And I do think that is the one thing I'll give Cube with B2B, is that they allowed B2B to sort of figure out what they wanted to do. They gave them a lot of comebacks.
They really did.
To figure this out.
Oh, yeah.
So what I will give Cube as like a saving, not a saving grace, but as a positive corner, is that they do tend to give their groups enough comebacks to find a style that either they excel in, like with B2B, where they excel in ballads. Like there's very few K-pop, like it's a niche that was not filled, the K-pop ballad group.
B2B is easily Cube's best managed group, and even then, they're still not scandal free. But compared to every other group in Cube, like they've easily managed B2B the best out of everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Essentially, all that's really gonna happen with them, they're gonna have a subunit in 2016. That's B2B Blue. That's their ballad based subunit. For even more ballads.
Not like anyone. Yeah, not anybody was making like terribly like raucous, heavy metal before.
Yep. They're going to renew their contracts in 2018, all of the members of the group. And from 2018 until 2022, we are going to have various members in and out of the group due to military enlistment.
Exactly. It is the shuffle people around to make sure we can still put out. I will say, luckily, they were still putting out pretty, at least one comeback a year for both of those years, where they were like, still we were missing some people there. Yeah, whomever was around came along.
Right. In 2020 they're gonna make the next subunit B2B4U, which is essentially just all of the members of B2B that were available at that given time, which is Eunkwang, Changsub, Minhyuk, and Peniel.
Because B2B4U, apparently not the ballad subunit, but still only doing ballads.
No, but like Peniel is there, so there's some rapping for Peniel, because Peniel can only do that. Yeah, Peniel can't sing, so he has to rap.
And also Minhyuk's there. Minhyuk is a rapper, but also sings
Minhyuk can sing, and especially in that subunit, he kind of has to sing because Peniel is there and taking up the rap, so Minhyuk kind of is forced more into vocals in that. Yeah, in 2020, there also is when we are going to get Ilhoon's drug scandal, and he's going to get kicked out of the group, so we're going to lose him then.
Then B2B4U goes on Kingdom in 2021.
Yep, we spend a year on Kingdom, essentially.
I mean, to be honest with you, I know that I don't think Cube had a single hand in putting them or not putting them on Kingdom. I think Cube gave them the, like, when they finally agreed to go on Kingdom, they gave them the resources.
Yeah.
But I think that entirely Kingdom was Minhyuk being like, we gotta do something.
Because B2B turned it down initially because I think everyone except Minhyuk was opposed to it. And then Minhyuk came at the group and was like, but can we please go on the show?
Can we do this? I don't know why Minhyuk wanted to do this so badly.
Yep, and I think, I think Eunkwang in particular was probably pretty easy to get on board. And, like, Peniel's not doing anything, so, like, Peniel's like, I guess I can do something.
And then Changsub
I don't think wanted to go on at all. Yeah.
But also he agreed because they also said you don't have to be here for like half of it.
Yes, because Changsub was just absent for parts of it without any explanations given. But yeah, they did that. They did not do horribly on Kingdom.
They did pretty decently. I think that they were kind of
boring,
for like the second gen representation. Yeah. But I think that that's sort of the niche that B2B has sort of put themselves in. They're super interesting as people on variety shows. Their music is ballads. So if you're a ballad person, that's what you're getting. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the niche that they've put themselves in. And I think they enjoy it.
Yeah. So yeah, they're going to do that. And then as of November 2021, all of their members are going to be out of the military. I think they had a comeback recently.
They had a comeback
very recently.
Like a couple of weeks ago.
Full B2B minus Ilhoon because of the drug issue. But
the thing with the drug issues, I feel like there is nothing with the way he was being charged.
There was nothing else that was going to happen there. That was the only thing they could have done.
Yeah, no, I need to go because looking at it, he was going to get charged and at the very least get probation.
Yeah.
So I do think that they probably did need to save face with that.
And this is like one of the only scandals that freaking Cube didn't drag on for months unnecessarily. It was like this happened and then they kicked him out pretty fast and then the drug stuff was happening, but he was already like pretty much confirmed out of the group. And we did not drag it on for like several months longer than it needed to be.
And even then, I don't know if that wasn't just Ilhoon being like, I kind of want this just to go away.
Yeah.
Can I leave?
Right.
Because I personally would more believe that it was Ilhoon.
Ilhoon was like, I'll just leave. It's fine.
Being like, I'll leave. As opposed to Cube actually being able to make a coherent decision.
Yeah, because considering the way they have handled every other scandal, it's like pretty not on brand for them to make a decision so quickly like that. So
exactly. So it makes me think that maybe we just had someone with
someone who had like, I don't know, better decision making skills figure that out for them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I do think that overall they probably are the best Bandaged Cube group because they are the only group still together.
They are. This is true.
Coherently together with only like one missing person in a group that's like at this point 10 years old.
Yeah.
That's a pretty decent track record for K-pop.
It is. All of the second gen groups have at least lost like one member.
We're down I was looking at something of the 2012 debuts. The only other one I can think of that are like
around
still together are probably like EXO still here. But yeah, I think it's B2B and EXO.
Yeah.
That's all we have. Man, that's depressing.
It's sad.
Yep. So, now the next one.
Mm-hmm. Our next group is CLC.
Okay, so here's before we get into CLC, if you're a big CLC fan, you're not going to like this section because
you're not.
We have a lot of opinions about Cube's management of CLC, and short answer, before you can skip over it now if you don't want to. We don't think they were managed that poorly.
Yeah. Cube just kind of sucks generally for everything, so like they still definitely sucked, but they definitely didn't do significantly worse on CLC than any of their other groups.
Exactly. So if you're the person that was waiting to get to CLC for us to rip into Cube Entertainment, we'll rip into them, but not for CLC.
Yeah. I think definitely 4 Minute and Beast were way worse than CLC. I think even like Pentagon and G-Idol are probably in a worse place than how Cube ended up with CLC. So
we'll talk. So Let's defend ourselves. Let's introduce CLC and then we'll defend our opinion.
So CLC debuted in 2015. They originally had only 5 members, which were Seunghee, Yoojin, Soren, Seungyeon, and Yeon. In 2016, they added Elki and Eunbin. Eunbin was formerly on Produce 101, but didn't make it into the group. So she joined then, and then Elki was just like another trainee that they had. The next big official scandal we get out of CLC is in 2020. So there's a lot of things that happened in between then.
Let's go into the shit that happened in between. Yeah. So a lot of people say that CLC is a super underrated group that Cube wholeheartedly mismanaged, that they were going to be the next Twice. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, I think Cube gave them every opportunity. The amount of comebacks that CLC has between 2016 and 2018 or 2015 to 2018, 2019 is a lot.
They have a lot.
They are allowed to do every concept. They start with the cute concept. They go to the more girl crush concept with Hobgoblin. They do more of that kind of concept with Black Dress. They do retro concepts. They do, and it just doesn't hit. And I don't think it's a management problem. I think it's just that sometimes groups get unlucky.
Yeah. They really I think they really did try, because they debuted with very cuter concept, and that was working out okay. So they added some new members, and then they kind of switched to teen, in the teen crush wacky mecky kind of concept area, and that they didn't really do anything. So then they fully switched to Hobgoblin. That hit better, so they stayed over there for a couple comebacks, and they were more successful there. But
I don't think that
no matter what they were doing, they were just not getting traction. And I don't think at some point
that's
it's that's not
I don't
on
think that's
the
Cube's
company
fault.
at that point.
I think that's just
they're just not.
There is a limited amount of resources.
There's just apparently something about them that was just not connecting to the K-pop audience.
And other people will say, well, they switched concepts too much. And I'm like, they didn't. It's not that they were switching concepts every comeback.
No.
They allowed the comeback for concept for 2 or 3 comebacks. They didn't switch from they didn't go immediately from high heels to Hobgoblin. There was they let
there was a pretty obvious switch. The only thing that was a little weird is right after Hobgoblin, when they did that really shitty retro song that was really low quality, and no one understood what that was for. So that was bad. That was a really bad move on them. I don't know why they did that, but after that they went back sort of to the same girl crush concept, and that's kind of where CLC was at for the rest of their career. And it's yeah, sure, they don't get a lot of comebacks, but a lot of groups only get 1 comeback a year. And these are especially they're in a similar realm as From Us 9, because From Us 9 only gets 1 song a year. They're still decently successful with that, and especially when you're later in your career, you can only really afford to do 1 comeback a year too. So
even if it's not even just 1 comeback a year, but as groups get older, they only do 1 comeback a year. Everyone's sort of doing slightly more solo was it possible that Cube could have given all of them more solo activities? Sure. But the fact of the matter is, when your group is not super successful, I think they wanted to try to focus more on the main group as opposed to even splitting them off
because
more.
I don't think they were even popular enough for them getting solo activities was that possible either. I think Soren was their best chance because she had more of an international following, but as we will probably talk about on the Scandal Iceberg, Soren is a little bit not a great person to be putting out there as your spokesperson for the group, so
yeah. So overall, I don't think a lot of people will, and this is, again, I'm not saying that they weren't mismanaged, but there are many people who tend to put CLC out there as the most mismanaged girl group, and I gravely do not agree. Yeah. I think that this is a group that just unfortunately never gained the traction that they, again, deserved probably, but is it anyone's fault? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Was it just that the public didn't give them the recognition they deserved? Probably.
That's and that's really all there is to it. I don't think there was anything specific that Cube did different with CLC that led to them not being successful. I think it was just unlucky. And that's just kind of how it is sometimes. Especially because, like, really none of their other groups are going to have that same problem. So there really must have been just something bad about the time they debuted or, like, what they were doing at that time that just was not sticking with people at all.
Yeah. So then we get into probably the actually decent mismanagement of them, which is later in their career with the drama of everything else.
Yeah. So in 2020, Elkie is going to request contract termination from Cube because she didn't receive, like, any sort of payment at all. And I think that might still be an ongoing lawsuit with them.
I think it is, because I don't think I've ever heard of anything coming from that.
Yeah, so Elkie is Chinese, so she went back to China and is, I think, doing stuff there.
And I think that's
a lawsuit.
A lot of that also might just come from, I know that there is a difference, and I think Soren has even talked about this, of, like, there's a difference of how the foreign idols have to get paid as opposed to the Korean idols. So, like, that kind of dispute about payments might not actually be something about all the members are going through. It might just be specifically Elkie.
Right.
Because I don't think any of the, like, Korean members have stated anything about them not getting paid.
Yeah. And then in June of 2021, Yoojin goes on Girls Planet 999. That's where she confirms the disbandment of CLC. That is the only official news we get about CLC disbanding, is Yoojin saying it on Girls Planet 999.
Which, again, I don't know if do we count that as an official Cube statement?
Like,
what does that count
like,
as?
that is, like, on Cube. Like, that sucks a lot. Like, that's, like, pretty shitty of them. Because we still don't have anything. It was like Yoojin went on the show and she said, yeah, the company told us we're not going to promote as a group anymore. And so that's a disbandment. Like, that means, like,
that's
what that means. And Cube has literally has yet to say anything about it, which is, like, that's, like, pretty terrible. Like, that's, at least, like, you could at least just confirm it, because essentially now everyone knows anyway. So, like, that's just pretty shitty. In November, Soren's gonna leave Cube, and then Yoojin debuts in Kepler in early 2022, and then that's
honestly,
CLC.
That's the end of CLC. Honestly, I think at the end, Cube, because at this point in 2020, I think because of other reasons and other, like, falling outs that Cube has had, I think a lot of it because they do not have a shelf of stable back catalog artists. By this point in 2020, they have lost any artist that they could, like, hold on to that's not new. Like, the oldest group they have at that point is CLC.
Yeah.
They don't have a back catalog of artists that's constantly bringing them in money. Oh, no, B2B. But B2B, I almost think of B2B as their own thing.
Yes.
Weirdly.
Yep.
They're just a constant. Like, Cube, I think, is just in a very bad place by 2020.
Right.
That I don't think they can keep up with having this many groups financially. Overall, I do think the one that ended up pretty decent out of this was probably Yoojin.
Yeah, because she's in Kepler now.
She's in Kepler now.
She can probably debut solo in a different company after Kepler and be kind
decent.
of okay, yeah.
Or, like, maybe she'll stick around in Cube.
Who knows? Maybe.
Who knows?
I can't imagine that any member of CLC wants to just be under Cube the sake of it, yeah.
Again, I don't think anybody does, but honestly, overall, depending on what the prospects look like when Kepler disbands, she might just stick around just because it's, you know, they can quickly put her out as soloist.
True. All right, next we're gonna get to Pentagon. Pentagon debuts in 2016. They're a 10-member boy group. In early 2016, they are participating in a survival show run by Cube called Pentagon Maker. Essentially, they had all of these, like, different sort of qualities that they all had to get a star in or max out in order to debut, and whoever finished their, like, little Pentagon thing was gonna debut in the group. So Edan, Yanan, and Shinwon actually don't pass the show and were not originally supposed to debut on Pentagon.
Which I genuinely think is probably just a lie.
Yep. But the 7 passing members of the group asked the company to let them debut as a whole, and Cube said sure, I guess. So their debut got delayed a little bit while they prepared for all 10 of them to debut. So yeah, they're gonna make their debut in later that year. The next year, 2017, Hui and Edan are going to join Triple H with Hyuna. And then
again, I think that is an interesting choice to do because it's a very similar thing they did with 4 Minute and with Beast, which is immediately debut a subunit after you debut the main group.
It was super weird also, considering Kui and Edon, like, were brand new and Hyuna is a very established artist, and it was like, why are we putting Hyuna with these 2 kids who are, like, just debuting? Of course, at that time, we did not know that Hyuna and Edon were in a relationship, which makes a lot more sense in retrospect, but at the time, it was a very weird decision for them. For that subunit to even exist, really. And then the next year is the Hyuna Edon dating news in 2018, and then Edon's gonna get kicked out of Pentagon, and he is gonna go to P Nation with Hyuna. Also, while that was happening, that's often forgotten, but in the Hyuna Edon dating, there was also, like, a little brief scandal that Hui was maybe dating Soojin of G-Idol.
I think that was confirmed, that at one point those 2 were dating and then they broke up. Which is, again, sure, no one cares anymore because that was just overshadowed by, like, the bombshell
completely buried by the Hyuna Dawn of it all,
So that kind of threw Pentagon off the rails because then they just lose them.
Because it's
they
like
lost their most notable member.
And it's because this was like immediately after Shine was hitting big, and then you're losing your, like, one of the central members of your group immediately. And it's like that kind of derailed a lot of their momentum for a while.
Yeah.
And it's like they were on a pretty upward trajectory then, and it's not like they're ever gonna, like, stop growing, because I think they do pretty steadily grow still up until now. But it's just,
but
like,
I do think it's like it's a shake.
It definitely delayed it.
Slowed momentum.
Yeah.
It slowed the momentum.
It definitely was really bad for them as a group. As of 2019, Yeonan is gonna be in and out of the group promotions, randomly for several years. For health reasons.
Cool.
And also being in China. And then in 2020, they go on Road to Kingdom. Jinho's gonna go to the military in the middle of Road to Kingdom, and he's gonna cry on stage.
On camera.
Yep.
On stage. For the world to see.
Yep.
In the most uncomfortable performance in the most uncomfortable K-pop performance.
Let's talk about this again, because I think this is also, like, a really shitty move by Cube as well, because this was
truly.
Because Jinho enlisting in the middle of this show was clearly such a fucking publicity stunt by Cube, and it's just, like, a terrible thing to put the members of this group through.
Where essentially they had to, like, be... because they put this performance around the fact that Jinho's enlisting.
Yes.
That's
the whole performance. It's a goodbye to Jinho performance.
Yep. That performance is not any longer than the other performances. So they essentially stop the performance in the middle for, like, a good, like, almost solid, like, minute to minute and a half.
Yeah, we play a surprise goodbye video for Jinho.
And then cry together.
And then, Hui comes out, and they're, like, the rest of the group behind him, ugly crying. Jinho is ugly sobbing.
Ugly crying.
Jinho has to finish singing the song while he's just sobbing on stage. And it's just, like, the end of the performance, everyone is crying together. And it's just, like, such a sad thing to watch. Because everyone is crying. And it just is so terrible that Cube made him do that, because they definitely did not have to have Jinho enlist in the middle of the show, nor did they have to make Pentagon make his enlistment a huge fucking public ordeal as well, like this. And I feel like it's karma, because I think they came in, like, 5th out of 6th or something, 5th out of 6 or 7 that round anyway.
And let's be honest, if you look at it, that shows was almost Pentagon, like, in terms of the way public voting worked. That shows was almost Pentagon's to possibly lose. Yeah. And they did lose.
And they did lose it, like, drastic. They were not even in contention ever while on that show,
It's unfortunate, but also, like, I'm very happy that they weren't in contention, because they did not deserve to be.
They definitely came into the show, and a lot of the other groups kind of respected them a lot, because they were a little bit more, like, senior than the other groups. And then they just showed up, and all of their performances were just not good. I don't think they put on a single good performance that entire show.
It's really just... Though at the end of the day, this is us talking about how Cube managed them. What could they have done? Except other than the fact that the Edon situation is totally fucked, obviously. that is obviously the worst thing that they did.
Yes.
But the Yeon situation they have no control over.
That's not anything Cube is, I don't think, responsible for, so that's just whatever.
I'm just thinking about the overall issues with
the Eon thing sucked. The Jinho Road to Kingdom thing really sucked. And then it's like, I didn't do anything else like really bad, but those two things alone, like the Eon thing really fucking slowed the momentum of Pentagon like a lot. Especially at a time where they were, like, really gonna, like, I think about to make a big break, and then that happens, and then kind of, like, brought everything to a screeching halt, so.
Yeah.
Well, now Jinho is back from the military, but Hui is in the military. Hui is gone. So we are, I think...
We needed a break.
We are, I think, we're in the beginnings of the cycling people in and out of the military that B2B did, so.
I mean, at least we're not at the point where we didn't have Hui or Jinho.
That was a rough time, and there is a reason we didn't release any music in the period of time where we did not have Hui or Jinho.
We did promote, and it was weird.
Yes.
They did promote, and it was very weird.
Promoting Do or Not without Hui is a completely different song. Like, it's a different song. And then they did that really bad subunit that we don't talk about.
Again, there's a reason why in that version of Pentagon I know maybe 3 people's names, because there are genuinely about 3 members of Pentagon.
Yes,
names are like a mental block. Yeowon?
It's Yeowon and it's like Hongsuk.
And then there's a
Shinwon.
Shinwon. I was literally about to say Shiwon and be like, that's similar
different,
to that.
Similar but different, yeah.
I'm like, it's similar to that, but like, it's like a mental, especially with Shinwon, it is a mental
Shinwon is like the most forgettable member of the group, so like, I get it. It's fine.
But like, the fact that we've gone through this so many times, and it is a genuine mental block I have.
It's like your equivalent of the Lucas WJS and GWSN. It's just like these 3 members of Pentagon you just cannot ever remember for the life of you.
No, that will be that is my trial. Like, that will be, if you ever want to know if I've been replaced with an imposter.
If anyone can, if Sammi can name all of the members of Pentagon.
It's not me. It's not Sammi. Me. It's not me.
Yep.
So now we get to a group that was, I think, yes and no mismanaged. I have no idea what this is.
You gotta get a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B with G-Idol.
A little bit of it's our fault, a little it's not our fault.
Yep.
I feel like the problem with Cube, and this is genuinely, I think, the problem with Cube, is that I feel like they know how to go through the cycle of the group.
Yeah.
The 2 problems with them is that, 1, they do not know how to give their artists enough to do where they'll stay. So, like, they get them for, like, 7 years and that's it. And 2, they do not know how to address a scandal to save their fucking lives.
No. Their scandal management is horrendous.
Garbage. Like, if the group is going smoothly, like, they'll give you comebacks, they'll give you, opportunities to grow. They'll give you all this other stuff.
Yeah.
If a scandal comes in, they're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
And even going back to the Hyunodon of it all, the amount of times they went back and forth and statements are like, we're kicking them out, or like, oh no, we're still in discussion, we'll announce it later. It's like, no, we're kicking them out. It's like, there's just like, make up your minds already, and they drag things out for months longer than they need to be, and I think that only like makes everything worse.
It makes everyone just question so much of the management style of this company. It makes everyone just like, because the thing with scandals, and this is how you get through a scandal well, is that if you make one statement and then let the scandal play out, most people do not want to dwell.
Yeah.
The public, unless it's a super juicy scandal, will not just start dwelling. The general public, the fans will dwell. But for the most part, they're going to be your fans. They're going to stick around. I don't need 18 statements. Genuinely.
You don't need 18 statements, and we don't need you to take, like, fucking 5 months to make up your mind on a decision that should take, like, a couple weeks. Like,
because at that point, you are the only one keeping the scandal alive.
Yeah.
The public wants to... I think the public wants to move on.
Oh, yeah. I think the Sujin thing with G-Idol is, like, their, like, prime example of them, like, just absolutely having no idea what the fuck to do with a scandal, and it's, like, I think one of the most, like, horribly managed things that Cube has ever done.
Absolutely.
So G-Idol is a 6-member girl group. They debut in 2018. Soyeon went on Produce 101 in 2016. Released a couple of solo songs, one on Unpretty Rap Star, before she was debuting in G-Idol. Other things that they do in the meantime, 2018, Soyeon and Miyeon do KDA stuff, and that's really good because we love KDA.
I think that's a very good thing that Cube got for them.
Oh,
that's how you do a... I think Kate, like, around this time, doing G-Idol is really where I think Cube is starting to understand how to, like, maybe give members stuff to do.
Because I
think a lot of it is the fact that Soyeon already came in with shit to do.
Yeah, Soyeon already had a bunch of stuff to do.
But I think that they're learning that, because G-Idol begins very popular, so they're like, so let's try to continue. Let's try to expand this into doing things with members.
Yeah,
which I think overall is a good thing.
And G-Idol does generally still get a lot of like solo activities as well, which I think is really good because they definitely weren't doing that with their girl groups before.
It only took,
so that's it took them. I don't even how many years? 9 years before we figured it out.
To learn that lesson.
Yeah,
God.
So they go on Queendom in 2019, don't do particularly well, or
not really,
on Queendom.
But I don't think that was Cube's
but
fault.
That was a lot of the groups on Queendom didn't do particularly well. So I think they maybe got a little bit of a boost from it, but I don't know if it really helped them like a lot more than just like typical growth would have. But
yeah.
And then we get to the Sujin thing, and that happens in 2021. She gets caught up in the school bullying scandal. And then she will leave the group pretty early on. And then, like, in 2022, like, March, February, we just got official confirmation that she's left Cube as well. So they dragged that out for, like, a year.
Yeah, I think that overall, Cube falls back into their old habit of making 18 statements for some reason.
Yeah, the Sujin thing came out, it's like, they released too many statements, there were so many people involved with it. Cube is just, like, flailing around, having absolutely no idea how to handle any of it, or, like, how to have discussions with, like, any of the people making accusations, or, like, anything. It's just, like, they have no fucking idea what they're doing. They put out too many statements. It gets dragged on for months and months and months, and we just didn't need to have all of these updates that are telling us nothing useful about it anyway. It's like, I think all they needed to do is they needed to release, like, couple statements when it was first big blowing up, and then just, like, shut the hell up. Maybe release another statement, like, 3 or 4 months later with, like, legal updates or anything, if anything has happened. And if nothing has happened, then just, like, continue to shut up.
Move on.
And then I'm fine with them waiting to terminate her contract until like now. Doing it right before G-Idol's comeback is probably not a good way to do that. Because I think that maybe brings the scandal back into light when they are trying to make a comeback, and I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing for them. So that's not great, but I feel like because FNC did the same thing with Jimin, where they waited to kick until I think Jimin's contract ran out with FNC for her to leave. And so, like, I don't mind them waiting longer to officially, like, have her leave Cube, but I just think that all of the, like, random nonsense they were doing in the middle of those 2 points was just, like, completely unnecessary.
Yeah. I just think that this is them continuing to not learn from any of their mistakes, do the same thing over and over again, and then just essentially, because what I will say is that at the very least, G-Idol is not disbanding. they have essentially done the thing where they're going to continue on as a group, apparently.
Yes.
But this also means that last year was essentially a complete waste for G-Idol as a group, because, yes, Soyeon did some solo stuff, Miyun did a little bit of solo music, Yuki did debut solo last year and did Stage Boom in China, so she's continuing to be pretty decently popular in China.
Yeah.
They have let her, because she also hosted Running Man for a little bit, like, she actually
so she's doing a lot of stuff. Like, so her and Soyeon are fine, and, like, Miyun does, like, some stuff. Not as much as, like, either of them, but Minnie and Miyun both have, like, at least some stuff to do as well.
Yeah.
Shuhwa not really doing a lot, but, like, I don't know if she wants to do anything, so who knows?
I don't know what she's got up her sleeve, maybe eventually, but who knows. But overall, I just think that the Soojin situation, just, if it was, either kick her out and be like, oh yeah, we found out this, if it's, again, not to pass judgment on anyone's character, but if you find out that it is true, be like, we found out some new information about our artists, we apologize, this person apologizes, they have decided to leave the group.
Yeah.
And then we move on.
Yeah.
Or, if you're gonna fight it, be like, we are fighting this isn't true, da-da-da-da-da. Have her apologize, even if you think that's, like, just have her say, I apologize if you felt that way.
Right.
And then just move on.
It just seems like they are so indecisive. They just couldn't figure out what they wanted to do, so they were trying to keep their options open, but in the end it just ended up, like, worse for everybody because of that.
It's just not a good system what they're doing.
No,
here.
It's like whatever. I don't know what they're doing, but whatever it is, it's bad.
Because here's the thing: this would not be the first K-pop group that has a bullying scandal.
No.
So I don't know, like, and I think that this is gonna haunt G-Idol more than most other groups that have a bullying scandal, because it was just a full year of time people were talking about
it was like Soojin was in the middle of this period of time where we were pulling a bullying for, like, essentially anyone and everyone who was an idol, and so many of them I think just got, like, very early on dismissed as untrue, or if they admitted to it being true, they took a hiatus and are coming back later and it's fine and we're forgetting about it.
Yeah. For the most part, again, if it was true, a lot of this is the fact of, like, they were children. That's there. You have plausible deniability there, even if it is true.
Right. If
it's not true, or even if you just don't want to deal with it, have them take the hiatus and then come back.
Yeah.
This would be if Cube hadn't spent the last year making statements
and just, like,
she could have been
floundering around. Yeah, because, like, also, so just look at the Irene situation. Irene did that as a grown adult. And SM Entertainment just barely acknowledged it. She wrote an apology. She took a hiatus for, like, a year, and then she came back a year later, and it's fine.
And it's fine.
Because we ignored it and we moved on. And it's, like, we could have easily done that with Soojin. I don't think anything that Soojin was doing in the bullying-wise was, like, that bad that it was, like, she needed to leave the group for it.
Especially if it was true, if they apologized and used it as, like, a hiatus moment, a growing experience.
Yeah.
But that's even implying that this is true. Has anyone even no one in this situation, I'm still very unclear if this is true.
How much of it was true, how much of it is either, if it's, like, an exaggeration or even true in the first place.
Lie.
Yeah.
Like, this entire situation is also very complicated. For the most part in these bullying situations, it's either a full truth or a full lie. This seemed like somewhere in the middle, but also no one is putting out in all of these Cube statements, nothing is ever clear.
I think
nothing is ever cleared up.
The only thing that made Soojin's more complicated is that it involved an actress who was claiming that she was bullied by Soojin. I think that made things a lot more complicated with, like, meeting with, like, victims also, and trying to get statements, but it's, like, still, I feel like there's definitely a way where she could have still been in the group after this was all over, so.
It's insane.
It's just, it was, like, completely wild, that the way they decided to go about that. Yeah. Only other thing that's gonna happen is, like, Yuki is gonna go solo and go on Stage Boom in the middle of this sort of Soojin thing figuring itself out. Yuki is thriving. But yeah, Jada's having a comeback on the month in, like, 2 days from when we're recording this, so They're not dead. At least we were able to not completely just disband after that scandal, because if we had done that, that would have been terrible.
That would have just been a waste
That
of
would have
everyone's
been
time.
absolutely garbage, yeah.
So now we move on to, oh no, we don't move on to the final group. Now we have a slight tangent about Guanglin.
Yeah, so Guanglin is in Cube Entertainment for a while.
Y'all remember that Guanglin from 101 was in Cube Entertainment? So he really is there. He goes on Produce 101 Season 2. And then he is in 101 for a little bit, so he has really nothing to do with Cube
during his time in 101. Yep.
Then he comes back, is in a subunit with Woosuk.
They make a really bad subunit song.
Oh no, it's genuinely one of my least favorite subunits because both of them are not, again, you need a vocalist in a group, in a subunit. None of them are vocalists. It's also not a good rap subunit. It's like not good.
Yeah, it's just, that was just a bad decision all around to even make that subunit.
Yep. Then he goes back to China, where he does a show called, a little thing called First Love. He becomes an actor there. He never returns to Korea, and then in 2020,
maybe? I don't know.
2020, he files to have his contract termination, which he wins, and thus he's never been back.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely think that they really mismanaged, because I do think that he is not under Cube in China, obviously.
Yeah.
I think that they saw what he was doing. Guanglin came out of 101, was like, I don't know if Cube maybe wanted him to be a soloist, but he's also Taiwanese.
Yes.
He is not Korean. His Korean is fine, but he's not particularly great at that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he proceeded to go back to China, realize he has a very lucrative very lucrative career in China as a actor, and then also just in like Chinese variety shows.
Mm-hmm.
And then he doesn't need to come back, and though he didn't.
Yep, he did not. It's like, I think they also, another thing is they have yet to debut a boy group after Pentagon.
They have.
So if they, it's like, they waited so freaking long that at this point, Guanlin has got to be like, there's no way I'm ever debuting in this company, and it just left for China. And like, honestly, that's the great decision for him. At that point.
That's probably better for him.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I feel like in 2019, they probably wanted to debut him solo.
Yeah.
But it's also the fact that, like, they weren't ready to put out a boy group in 2019 after 101 had disbanded. They're not ready to do it now, much less then.
Right.
So
the last
now
group.
we move on to the last group.
Newest
Now we're
group.
finally back almost at the present.
Yep. Our last group is Lightsum. They debuted in 2021. Before Lightsum, Joohyun was on the unit she went on there as a trainee from Cube still, which was weird because the unit was shows for idols who were failed. So I don't know why she was there, but she was.
Who knows?
And then Showon, Nayoung, and Yoojung all went on Produce 48. Showon did really well, and then was revealed to have been rigged out of IZ*ONE due to the voting manipulation scandal.
Yep.
And now Lightsum is doing IZ*ONE's Concept in Spite. So there we go. We don't. They've had a debut and a comeback and have done absolutely nothing outside of those two. So there's like nothing to say about them.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Yeah.
Everything about Lightsum has been a choice.
Yes.
I think that, I don't know if it's because of COVID or anything else, but I do think we need more content from Lightsum.
Yeah, there's just not enough there because
I'm bored.
It's too
comeback.
They debuted with like singles, so there's like really just not any music either. And they've also, it's been like I don't think they've hit their 1 year anniversary yet, so it's like they're really
not
just
yet.
So new. Cube hasn't had a chance really to screw it up yet, so
nope. Again, they've had 2 comebacks. I really hope that because what we have said is that the one saving grace about Cube Entertainment is that they do give their artists a chance to succeed by giving them a decent amount of comebacks.
yeah.
I really hope that we're not changing that now.
Yeah.
with this group.
Oh,
I hope that they just give this group, because again, I liked Vanilla. I think
did.
Vanilla is more the concept that I want from Lightsum than
Vivace.
Vivace.
Vivace was
God.
so clearly an Eyes One song, but they just can't do it because they're
But
not
also,
Eyes One, and they don't have
they're not
enough.
Eyes One.
They don't have enough people to do Eyes One choreography. Number one, and also they are
don't
not
have
Eyes One, and they don't fit the Eyes One concept. So there's a reason that Eyes One was Eyes One, and Lightsum should not be Eyes One.
And Lightsum is not Eyes One.
Yeah. And it's like, this is another thing I'll say, and this is like kind of a bad thing for Q, but this is also a general problem I have with all companies to do this. If you're debuting a group with a digital single, I think that's like really shitty. Like I get single albums because then at least you have like a physical album for fans to buy and they still get the photo books and everything, and that's like, there's not a lot of music there, but at least it's something. If you're debuting a group with a digital single, like you are putting like the least amount of effort possible into your group at that point.
I even don't necessarily love when they put out a single album, because I think a debut, I think that companies now this isn't just Cube, this is generally everyone, because I think a lot of companies are now turning to doing less content at debut.
Yeah.
And I know that's a risk-reward management, but like the most amount of eyes are on you when you debut. Most people will check out a debut because it's like, oh, this is a new group. Let me see what they do. Why would you waste that opportunity by doing the least amount of music?
Yeah.
Because I'll check out most debuts. Will I check out your second comeback? No, if I don't like your debut, I'm not checking it out. But if I saw something in your debut I liked, I'll come back.
Right. And
so
if
why
you're
are
giving
you limiting yourself?
Especially when you're the digital single, you're getting literally no other songs, like just one singular song or like two songs, but it's still a digital single. It's like you are just putting minimum like effort into your group at that point, and it really bothers me because I feel like groups should be debuting probably with mini albums, because I think that like lets fans get a feel for like the group more and like sort of their style of music.
And it sort of even allows you to have like, because even if there's a B-side in there that kind of clicks with some people, that's where you're really going to get your fans of just like, you have, everyone's going to check it out. Or everyone, but like more people are going to check out your debut than are going to check out your next comeback if they aren't in love with your debut.
Yeah.
That's the fact of the matter is. And so I'd rather, why not put the effort into this debut, and then again, depending on how it goes, if you need to rebrand later, then do a digital single or something.
Right.
To like maybe try to expand the concept.
Because G-Idol did a mini album at debut and then they did digital singles for a while, and like that's fine. Like I think that's a better formula than to just do a digital single debut and then
because it also allows like, I also think that again, K-pop is one of the very few like for the most part, a lot of other artists will just debut with a digital single, but I'm like, K-pop is such an aesthetic market. Like, I think that if there's any opportunity to put something out physically for K-pop fans, I have a bookshelf, not full of books,
of K-pop albums.
Full of K-pop albums.
Only K-pop albums.
You do, Kayla.
I do. You
have the same thing.
I've got 2 bookshelves full of K-pop albums.
It's like, it's so much. Like, if there's an opportunity for K-pop fans to buy a physical thing,
we will do it. Especially now because they're so much more accessible in like a Western market too.
Exactly. So. Like, it's one of those things where, and also, like, just doing, like, an M-Wave or something like that. If you have an access to sign something for fans or do something like that, it's so useful. No? It's, like,
it's just
it is...
Why would you, and it's like, why would you not want to give them, like, a physical album to debut and also, like, start increasing, like, your physical album sales so you have an idea of the type of fandom that your group has? Like... It just doesn't make sense to me why you would debut a digital single.
Not just that, but like physical media is dying. And you are in an industry where it is one of the few music industries where people are willing to buy physical media. Who buys CDs anymore? No one does. K-pop fans do.
K-pop fans are buying more CDs than ever now because we can't go to concerts too. So.
Exactly. Do I own a CD player? No.
Nope.
Not even my car doesn't even have a CD player.
Nope.
Do I have all this shit? Yes, I do.
Do I have like over 100 K-pop albums? Yes, I do.
Exactly.
So like,
yes, I do.
this
Like
is where we are.
you have to take, like, I don't understand how K-pop companies are not just taking the opportunity, like taking this like grand opportunity that are given to them, which is that they are one of the few industries that can still sell print media. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You think American celebrities wouldn't kill to just also have people buying useless CDs?
Right?
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to rely on Spotify. I pay, like, I still listen on Spotify, and I bought the $20
Oh
CD.
yeah, exactly.
That's what K-pop fans do.
Mhm.
So overall, Cube's a terrible company.
Terrible. I hate them. I think they're one of the worst.
They really are.
One of the
I
worst
think
companies that are at least like still like functioning as a company. I'll say.
Technically functioning.
Yeah.
I think it's just also the fact of, like, it's so funny to me that they cannot even, because, like, every company can hold on to just some people. Like, take, like, I don't know, even when groups disband from companies, one or two of the members will still stay in the company.
Yeah. Because, like,
Like, you have-
Woolham lost its 2 founding artists, but it has, like, remnants of them still around.
Yeah. Everyone's still kind of around.
And that wasn't, like, they were, like, it wasn't, like a leaving the company in the shitty way that, like, essentially, like, all of Beast left and then were, like, fucking not allowed to take their trademark with them. And then
No.
the
I
rest
think
of
that's-
4 Minute left because they were just not being given anything at all.
This is just the overall end of a lifespan of a group.
Yeah.
Because group lifespans are, like, end eventually. So overall, I'm upset.
One of the worst companies I think we're talking about this year. Like, it's not, they are bad.
We still have that one.
Well, yeah, but they're also, like, they don't exist anymore.
Fair. Oh, one of the worst companies that still exists.
Yeah. So what would we give them out of 10?
I would say, because they still give consistent comebacks, 4 out of 10.
I'd give them a solid 4. Yep.
A solid 4
Solid
out of
4
10.
out of 10 for Cube
Because
Entertainment.
genuinely, I don't care if you have consistent comebacks. If you're willing to just throw your groups under the bus immediately after a scandal happens,
Then, like, that you,
fuck
fuck
off.
you. Yeah.
What did we give FNC?
We gave
like
them
an
a
8
we
out
gave
of
them a
10?
9, I think.
We gave them a 9 out of 10.
And then also just, like,
Cube-
keeping in the back of your head that, like, TS Entertainment is at, like, a 0. Or
a 0 out
yeah.
of 10. Like a -3.
Yeah.
Because they're also dead.
Yep.
So overall, I think we have to slowly, Kayla, do a ranking where, like, we just sort of fit them into.
Yes.
We're doing 11 this year because we're doing them for 11 months. So like
Mhm.
right now we have FNC at number 1.
Yes.
And Cube right now is at number 2. Right now they're in second place.
Second place
out
for
of 2.
It's the best they're gonna ever be, probably.
Exactly. They're 2 out of 2.
Yep.
And next month, if anybody is curious, we are going to be doing...
It's Starship.
Starship.
Yep.
Starship Entertainment. So that's exciting.
So exciting. Hooray. So we are available on all major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're over there listening to us, leave us a review while you're there. It helps the podcast a lot. We also have a YouTube channel where we post all of our episodes along with fun clip videos every week. And we have an Instagram and Twitter account that are linked in the description of every episode as well. Not that they're very active, but they're there if you want to follow them.
They're present.
Yep. And we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.